Today is March 26, 2014, and we are interviewing Dean B. Stucker at the Adams County Courthouse in Quincy, Illinois. Mr. Stucker, how old are you?
Well, I was born August 25th, 1923.
Okay, my name is Anita Rodriguez, and I'll be the interviewer. Mr. Stucker, could you state what branch of service you served in?
I was in the 87th Depot Repair Squadron, attached to the 15th Air Force.
And what was the rank that you achieved?
Buck Sergeant.
And did you serve in a war?
Yes,
Okay.
I was over in Italy, World War II. And the name of the town was Foggia, Foggia.
And how did you, were you enlisted or drafted?
I was drafted.
Okay. And did you receive your basic training someplace?
Yes,
Where did that
St.
occur?
Petersburg, Florida.
And about how long did that basic training take?
About 6 months.
And after you completed your basic training, did you immediately go over to Italy, or?
No, I went in, they assigned me to Operations and Intelligence School, and that was in Enid, Oklahoma. And my mother nearly fainted when she heard that I was in the intelligence.
How long did the Operations and Intelligence School last?
I think, oh golly, it was probably 3 months.
3
It
months.
was very, very concentrated. We went to school 8 and 9 hours a day.
And was that training for a particular position within the Air Force, or why did they happen to send you there?
Well, it trained you to read secret code books and
Okay.
that type of thing.
Okay, very
We had
good.
to learn how to type. And we had no typewriters overseas, but we learned that.
Okay.
And different manuals that you used in the service, if you were lucky to have them.
Okay. So you didn't always have what you needed?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, after your training, your basic training and the intelligence school, where was the first place you actually served?
Well, I didn't serve in the United States. My training was here, but I was assigned to the 15th Air Force, and we were the 87th Depot Repair Squadron. But to make the term understandable, it was really a junkyard. The airplanes, during the war, we had around 20-some air bases in Foggia, Italy around us, fighter squadrons, bomber squadrons. And when they returned from a mission, any ship that was disabled or had mechanical trouble would land on our base, because if they crashed on their home base, they couldn't fly the next day because they tie up the fields. And most of the fields were dirt, or they had metal runways that the Air Force manufactured. But we had around, I think, 18 or 19 air bases scattered around us. We were like a hub and a wheel.
Okay, so whenever any of the aircraft were damaged or needed repairs, they flew into Foggia?
Yes, if
and
they
you
were disabled where they couldn't be repaired on their home base.
Okay.
And then we had a crew of people who would try to make one aircraft out of 2 or 3 work, because we didn't get replacements aircraft very often.
So was part of your basic training learning mechanical skills?
No, ma'am.
Or did you have other training for that?
Just a foot soldier, basically. We had 90 days, and I went to the school was called Operations and Intelligence, and it was a college, small college in Edmond, Oklahoma, that we went to school. We went to school 8 hours a day to learn secret codes and basically typing
Mhm.
and basic coding that we had to use whenever we got in service. And then we were assigned to then I was assigned to the 15th Air Force after that.
Okay, but in Foggia, when the aircraft came in that needed repaired, what was your part in that?
Well, basically, if they had injured on board or dead or some type of problem, I would take the injured to a hospital in the town of Foggia, which was pretty well demolished by us during the war, but they had a hospital there, and any immediate medication, there would be a doctor somewhere. And then any of the dead we had to take to a certain place in Foggia.
Okay, so I misunderstood. I thought you did the mechanical work in
No.
repairing the airplanes. You took care of the injured.
We took care of the
soldiers.
injured and assigning the airplane and getting the airplane or getting the people together to whatever they had to have done. If it was an engine work, I'd make sure that somebody took care of that part of it.
Very good. And how long were you in Foggia approximately? Was it a lengthy
About
period?
2 years, I think,
For the whole 2 years?
approximately.
Okay. And were you ever assigned any place during World War II other than in Foggia, Italy?
Well, just basic training camp, which was in Florida.
Right, but
I was
after
I was assigned to the 15th Air Force, and I was discharged from the
you were discharged
and the
from there.
87th Depot Repair Squadron. Right.
Okay. As far as your squadron is concerned, were there casualties in your unit?
Yes, we had the Germans bombed our air base at one time, and they hit one of our tent areas, and there were I don't know how many deaths, but not a lot, but it killed several soldiers.
Okay, and did they bomb the air base in
yes.
Foggia,
Oh,
you
yes.
mean?
They would send at night, they would drop big flares that would light up the whole countryside.
Okay.
And then they would come in and bomb the base.
Did you ever sustain any injuries yourself?
No,
Okay.
not from gunfire.
Good. Okay. And were you awarded any medals or citations?
Good conduct medal, which my mom almost passed out when I told her I got that. I wasn't injured, or I was in the hospital at a couple occasions, but
Okay.
not due to any battle injuries.
Okay. And how did you get along with your fellow officers and fellow soldiers?
I
Was
guess
it
all right. You'd have to ask them. No, I got along well with them.
Okay.
I had quite a few people that I had to work with, and especially when you had to line up medical service or ambulances or get men to a hospital. But over there, most of your buildings, like a building like this, there would be no windows in it, but it'd be a hospital. And we had to make use of in Italy, the buildings that they had. And most of the buildings in Italy were masonry. They weren't wood because they had very little lumber over there.
Okay, and this hospital you're talking about, you said it didn't had bare bone walls, or?
Well, it'd be kind of a building like this with no windows in it. It did have floors, and most of us Americans were pretty ingenious. We got the windows covered and made use of it, but it wasn't like a hospital here.
Right. Did you have necessary medical personnel? Did you have?
Just bare bones.
Okay, and were the medical personnel at these hospitals, were they military personnel?
Yes.
Okay. Since you had to transport the wounded, had you received any special medical training
No,
yourself?
ma'am.
Okay. During the time, the 2 years you were in Italy, were you able to keep in touch with your family?
Yes.
And back home, just
Yes.
by letter?
By letter, what they call it, V-mail, I believe it was.
Email.
They
What
had
is
that
that?
little folder. I don't know whether I got that in here or not, but yeah. I wrote to my folks at least once, tried to once a week. And all your letters were read by the commanding officer or one of the officers, because you had to censor your letters, and if you'd written in something that they think would identify us, why.
Okay, so your location
Yeah.
or was not to be identified?
Right.
Okay. And about how long would it take to get like a letter from you to home or to receive a letter? Was it a long process?
Well, I can't answer that specifically, but I think it was over 30 days, because they all had to, they were flown sometimes, and sometimes they went back home on a Liberty ship. I mean, they would carry the mail and that so forth. Or sometimes they never got them because the mail got blown up somewhere.
Right. Much different than today.
Yeah,
Right.
much.
Being able to stay in contact with by computer.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that was, well, we didn't have electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You brought numerous patches and things with you today.
Well, these are some that I accumulated. Those were on my uniform, the 15th Air Force and that Air Force insignia. And those are my good conduct medals. I don't know what the conduct was about. That was my stripes on my uniform. I was a sergeant. My highest rank was buck sergeant.
Okay.
Just plain sergeant.
Okay. And you have at least a bullet shell there.
That's
What is that
an
from?
Italian bullet.
Okay.
I found out in the field.
Okay.
And I don't know what, I can't remember where I got that money from. Is either in Africa. I was shipped to Africa after the war was over with to wait out to get home, to get back to the United States.
And why did they ship you to Africa? What was there?
It was just a staging point to get us out of the European theater.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long did you have to stay in Africa before you came home?
I believe it was around 60 to 90 days. I went overseas on a Liberty ship. Have you ever heard of those?
No, I haven't.
Okay, those were ships that were built by Henry Kaiser that made the Kaiser automobile. And he was the first man in this country that could make ships on an assembly line. And they were hastily built. There were a lot of them built during the war. And they hauled, they carried, in our case, they carried soldiers, but we had 6x6 trucks, which were a common military truck, and we had, I think, 3 tanks strapped to the top of our ship. And we had, and then they hauled us soldiers in the bottom of the ship, 5 layers high, and it was about 8 feet. I mean, I couldn't roll over in my bunk. I was the last one on the bottom, and I had a great big heavy set guy on top of me, and I couldn't roll over. I just had to lay flat.
Goodness. And how long did it take on the ship?
90 days to go across the ocean.
90 days.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And we ran out of water. We ran out of drinking water. And we landed in Foggia, Italy, is where I ended up in the war.
Okay. And what did they do when you ran out of drinking water? What?
You didn't drink
You
anything.
just didn't drink anything.
No, there's no place in the ocean to
There's
get.
no.
A lot of the ships had distilleries on the ships that they could make.
They could process.
Take the ocean water and make it into drinking water.
I see. Okay. All right. And when you were in Italy, was there any downtime? Did you get any time off to interact with the
no.
communities?
No, you were on duty 24 hours.
Okay.
You had to be aware that you might have some infiltration by the enemy at night, because that's when they usually would try to infiltrate, or they'd try to poison the food or do something to the water. But we had good surveillance.
Okay, so it was a 24-hour job for 7 days a week for almost 2 years?
Just about,
Okay.
right, yeah. The kind of interesting, a lot of airplanes, when they came back, a lot of them didn't get back, but if they had injured on board, they would shoot a flare up in the air, and then we knew right away that they had either dead or injured on there. And if there were any dead on an airplane like that, they would kick them out on the runway, because most times if the airplane was crippled, it would crash and burn. And they wanted, so we'd have to, that was the tough part of the job, is picking dead soldiers up off of the runway if they
Oh,
were.
absolutely. Okay. W- After you went to Africa and then you were able to come home, what did you feel like your homecoming was like? Did the people welcome the soldiers and the personnel as heroes?
No, I
No?
don't really think so. I don't remember of anything.
Okay. And what did you do after your military service ended?
I went to college.
Okay.
I had had 1 quarter of school. I had 1 quarter of college before I left for service, and then the GI Bill took me through school.
Okay, so the GI Bill did help you complete your
Oh,
college?
yes, oh,
Okay.
yes.
Where did you complete your college at?
Pardon?
Where did you go to college
I
at?
went to Iowa State University, or college, I guess they call it. There's 2 Iowa States, but, and in the field of agriculture, I wanted to.
And after your graduation from Iowa State College, did you work in agriculture then?
Mhm, yes, yes,
Are you presently retired?
yes.
Okay. How many years did you work?
Let's see, when did I retire? 1988?
You retired in
88?
88.
Okay.
Yeah, 88.
1988. Okay. And you presently still live in Iowa? Or
No,
you
here
live
in
in
Quincy.
Quincy?
Yes.
Okay, when did you move to Quincy? After your retirement, I assume?
No, I worked, I went to college after I got to Iowa State University. And then I
You
can't,
were consultant. You were consultant for DeKalb for that.
well, I wanted to get, my dad had me, he wanted me to be an engineer, and math and engineering just didn't work for me. And I wanted to be in agriculture, so I graduated animal husbandry from Iowa State
Okay.
University.
Very nice.
And then I went to work for an Amish community, believe it or not,
In Iowa?
in Iowa.
Okay.
That's the only place I could get a job after I got out of college. But,
Okay, very good.
yes.
And did you think that your military service, did that help you in any way?
Helped me grow up pretty quick.
Help you
yes,
grow up?
Yes. I had a good life as a kid. I was sheltered and so forth, but you grow up fast when you're thrown in with all kinds of people.
So you would have been early
I-
20s, or
Well, pardon?
you would have been early 20s when you entered the military?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
I was in just about 2 years.
Very good.
I went over on a Liberty ship. Took me 31 days to go across the ocean and 31 hours to come home on an airplane.
Wow, okay.
And one of the things I had when I was in Italy, I was in the hospital for about 2 months, and the Red Cross had a tour, and they took us up to the Rome. And I got waylaid somehow looking around, and I ended up having almost a private audience with the Pope, because I stepped inside a building, had doors like that, and the door closed and I couldn't get out. And the Red Cross tour left me, and all these people went up, so I went up with them.
And how did that end?
Well, I finally found somebody that could speak English, and they directed me in the right place, so I got caught up with the group I was in. That was kind of an exciting experience
Exciting,
for an
yeah.
18-year-old kid.
Yeah, I bet it was. Any other funny experiences like that you can think of?
No, I can't think of right off the top of my head. We always had kind of fun with the kids from the East, because they were really mama boys. And then when they got mixed up with the service, their life changed pretty fast. We used to have a lot of fun with them.
A lot of fun teasing them.
We'd short sheet their bed and they couldn't get into bed. But we had a little fun along with it, but,
Very good. I recently read a book called Once Upon a Town. It was about a canteen that was set up in North Platte, Nebraska for soldiers who were going across the country. Did you ever have anything? Did you ever encounter anything like that? No? Okay.
no.
And how did you travel from Iowa to Florida for your
Well, let's see, I think we
basic
came, I
training?
lived in Cedar Rapids. I know we came down through Quincy and we were on a Pullman car that had no windows in it. They were all broken out, and during that time, the railroads, they were abandoning the other cars, but the nice railroad cars we didn't have. They just had cars with no windows in them. And then I had I think it was 2 weeks leave from St. Louis, and I took a train from St. Louis to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I was right in the coach behind the engine, and it had no windows in it. And I got home and got off at the depot in Cedar Rapids, and my mom didn't recognize me. I was as black as the ace of spades.
Oh, I bet.
The smoke on the train.
Oh,
But
wow.
we had a 3-day, I think it was a 3-day leave before they shipped us overseas.
Okay.
And we didn't have any, I think the 18 months, we didn't have any fresh food. All of our food was either K rations or packaged of some kind.
So not real tasty?
They had no tasty cakes back then.
Yeah. Okay. But as far as, although they were K rations, you had plenty of it.
Oh, we
Right.
didn't starve.
You did.
No.
Okay.
No, we didn't starve. We didn't have any fresh food for almost 18 months.
Okay.
Spam, K rations. But you had to be careful overseas of the water because the enemy would poison water and you couldn't drink out of a stream, or that was the one thing that was hard to come by.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Did you make any close friends while you were in the service that you've maintained friendships with? No? Okay.
Most of them were from New York or Oklahoma.
Wonder why that is.
I don't know. I think they just scattered us around wherever they wanted
Right.
it. Like they wanted so many to be engineers and they wanted so many in the different parts.
After you got out, did you join a veterans organization of any kind? No. Okay.
No, I went to college. I took advantage of that.
Right. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to add that we haven't asked you about? Any special
Well, did I
memories?
comment it took me 31 days to go across and 31 hours to come home?
Yes,
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
that's a long time.
Yeah, we were in a convoy. I'd never seen an ocean-going vessel before I got into service. And I can remember when there were 3 of us. It was Stamps, Stewart, and Stucker. And Stewart had been in the service for a short period of time, but he kind of knew his way around, so I kind of followed him around because he knew how to avoid getting out of KP and so forth. And when we had to go on KP, he'd say, "Cover up your head, tell them you're a cook." Sure enough, I said, "Oh gosh, I couldn't do that." But anyway, we'd do it, raise up, we're cooks, lay our head down, the rest of the guys are on KP, and then we slip out and go into another company's tent, eat breakfast, and come back, slip back.
Sounds like you're pretty ornery.
Yeah, I was.
Okay. All right. Well, on behalf of all the people of the state of Illinois and the people of this country, we thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, you're welcome. Yeah, I'm still alive. You know, we had